Hello, welcome to Under the Hood episode 4. It is Tuesday, August 30th. Uh, Very busy day in the sports world, and welcome to Throw the Flag Sports Under the Hood, where kids can be pundits too. On the panel today, we have Rock the Barn back for more, Happy, Jake Ostern, Julia Sorgi, and Spencer Smith, new to the group, Spentano. So without much further ado, we're going to kind of get right into it. And I'm going to start off with probably the biggest news of the day having to be Teddy Bridgewater, starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, goes down with a torn ACL, other damage to the knee area, and he is out for a year. It was a non-contact injury around 3 o'clock Eastern today during the last Vikings practice of the preseason, and practice was canceled. Everyone seemed to be. It was just a deadly sight there, aside from actually being deadly. That's a really bad word to use. But there was reports of such a gruesome injury that there were players vomiting, uh, cursing all over, and what in Mike Zimmer's presser with the media at about 5 o'clock, he was virtually holding back tears. He knew, while the results hadn't formally come in, he knew this was bad. And it leaves you with the question, where do they go from here? We have Sean Hill as their backup, but this is a team with extremely, extremely high expectations coming into this year, with a pretty much top five defense, arguably the best running back in the league in Adrian Peterson, and even though 3,300 yards and 14 touchdowns last year, he was really expected to take that leap this year. They were really counting on him to work on the deep ball and really improve the passing offense. I mean, that is why they drafted Laquan Treadwell. They have Stephon Diggs, have Kyle Rudolph. They have plenty of options, but this is really a wrench in the Vikings 2016 plans. So, with none other than our Timberwolves fan, not a Vikings fan, we're going to start with Happy to get his take on what this means for the Vikings and what do they do.
Obviously, step one is to find the backup quarterback. Sean Hill may be the option, but I think you need to go out, either sign a guy like Michael Vick or trade for someone. Mark Sanchez is one name that I think of, maybe Sam Bradford if the Eagles are really on the Carson Wentz train, because the Vikings are a playoff team. That's been their best season. They're coming off one of their best seasons. They're a 27-yard field goal away from making the divisional round, and now they could come out. Adrian Peterson, best running back. They just need to find a quarterback, and they're deep. I don't see it.
Okay, you are on the trade for a quarterback train. You do not seem to be in love with Show as our own is couldn't make it to the
Can
season.
you,
Julia, do you think that they need to trade for a quarterback, and if so, who?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna agree with Happy on this one. It stinks what happened to Teddy Bridgewater. I think the Vikings were poised. There's gonna be a slugfest between them and the Packers this year in that division. Now with the Vikings lost, Teddy Bridgewater should be a pretty rough ride. I definitely think that they should go and look for a quarterback. I had a friend text me that they were possibly interested in drafting Geno Smith, which I don't understand why you'd be interested in Geno Smith. But it sounds like they already might be starting to look. They definitely need to get, I don't know his name, but their backup quarterback in some game in the last preseason game. Definitely get those couple snaps before their regular season opener. It's going to be a rough ride for the Vikings this year.
Agreed. This really is about as complete a team as you come to that was looking just to take the next step. You have the Arizona Cardinals, who are pretty much there and ready to win a Super Bowl, but this team was on the rise, and it really is an unfortunate injury. I have family out in Minnesota. Huge, huge Vikings fan. Unfortunately, one of our contributors, Gannon, who you've seen on the show last couple times, also a huge Vikings fan, couldn't make it tonight, but he is in utter shock, disbelief, and despair. Um, and it really leaves you thinking, what do they do? I mean, this is a really good and talented team. They're really one piece away from winning it. And if there's one thing or a couple things to be taken out of this, there's no structural damage to the knee. So he'll make a full recovery. He'll be back probably for the 2017 season. But this season is lost, and they were not an air raid attack Teddy Bridgewater again had a fine year last year, nothing to write home about. Only 14 touchdowns, but this is a run-first offense. It goes through Adrian Peterson, so that's some good news when you're considering. Rock the barn. Who do you think they should go after?
I don't know. At first, I really think they should look at Sean Hill in this final preseason game. He is 36, though, and he has not taken a whole lot of starting positions throughout his career in like about the last 5 years. ESPN says they might look at Colin Kaepernick. I don't know why. That's like another story to deal with his problem. But I feel like people like Sam Bradford would be people to look at for trades. I agree with what Happy said. I think they should look at like how Sean Hill plays first, and then go after a quarterback. So right now they might be fine. You never know.
Well, right now it's tough to find a really suitable quarterback late in August, just over a week before the season starts. But Spintana, we're gonna come to you, your first segment on the show. He's our Cowboys fan. I'm not quite sure how he got in here, but he managed to get in. You with Tony Romo going down, having to rely on Dak Prescott right now, looking at the reins for the Cowboys. Do you think it's the Cowboys or the Vikings who are in a better position at the moment? Be honest.
Honestly, like, see, with Romo and Bridgewater, I'd say the Vikings, but without Bridgewater, Dak Prescott's better than Sean Hill, I think. He tore up the Seahawks first team defense. That already happened. But the Vikings can feed off their run because they have Bridgewater there to make the throws when he needs to. But without Bridgewater, everyone knows they're going to run, so they're just going to stuff Peterson. As good as he is, I think he's 31 years old, and there's only so many hits he can take this season. And the Cowboys, I think they're about even. Neither of them are in a very good position, but for quarterbacks they should acquire, if they can acquire someone for cheap, like a late pick, they should, but I wouldn't get Sam Bradford because that's a 2-year contract, and that's just $18 million next year that you're not going to need or use. And then no one they get will make them a Super Bowl contender, so I don't think it's worth giving up a high pick like a third rounder.
Fair enough. But I do have to ask, you're comparing Romo to Bridgewater and then taking them out of the equation. But the Vikings defense is a top 5 defense in most people's eyes, if not a top 7. That's clearly much better than the Cowboys. And
It
even
is.
though the Cowboys O-line is much better than the Vikings, do you really think that they're on the same who has the better chance at this moment to gain a playoff berth?
I gotta go with the Cowboys just because of the NFC East and Romo's injury duration. The Vikings would have to get a wild card, which seemed to be claimed by the Seahawks, and then, I mean, they could get it. But the Giants are looking good too. And
Did you just say those words?
I did say those words. I said those words.
No, that's not how it works.
Well,
Giants are looking good.
You
That's
bring up
something.
a very interesting point with the wild card because in the past, in the NFC, it's pretty much been there. You have the NFC, the second place in the NFC West and the second place in the NFC North, which have taken up the wild card spots. But with the Vikings now staring down a bit of immediate disaster at the moment, they might not be taking up one of those wild card spots. So right now it's looking like the Packers are going to win the NFC North, assuming all follows suit. You're going to have the Cardinals and the Seahawks likely taking, the NFC West crown and then a wild card spot. But unless the Vikings can really ride the defense and Adrian Peterson to say maybe a 10-6, if everything really follows suit, maybe a 9-7, that might be able to get him in. But it opens up a spot for say another team like the Giants if they happen to put together a somewhat respectable year that may or may not win them the NFC East. If they go 9-7 or 10-6, the Vikings not having Teddy Bridgewater could open up another spot in the wild card that really other teams kind of thought was taken. so that they had to go through the division for their only route. Spencer, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I think the Falcons could make it in because they started off the season 6-1, and then they kind of choked it away. But
But they
still,
played the NFC East for the first 4 weeks.
they still started off 6-1. That's 6 wins.
Matt Ryan is a turnover machine in
He
the red
is,
zone.
but Devontae Freeman and Julio Jones are very nice weapons, and their defense isn't awful. I mean, it's not great, but
They get no sacks. They're like
they
giant
don't.
puppies.
But they have a chance.
Jake Ostern, you've been relaxing. Do you have anything to butt in here, or no?
Well, I think the Bridgewater injury is very significant for the Vikings. Now there's a big piece of the puzzle missing. Obviously, their playoff projections might go down, but as I said before, with Bridgewater going down and being out for the season, it really hurts the Vikings' chances to get into the playoffs. And again, it's a big hole in the Vikings' offense. So that's just my take on it.
Okay, certainly. From a fantasy owner's perspective, I don't think anyone was looking at Teddy Bridgewater as a fantasy starting quarterback. That part is safe, but a certain conflict of interest there. But I decided to take Adrian Peterson, and this injury really kind of concerns me because they were expected to be more balanced as they will have to. They're very one-dimensional, kind of like Todd Gurley at the moment. The Vikings O-line is fine,
Wow.
but they're going to be one-dimensional
I see how it is.
that the opposing defenses can just stack the box the same way that opposing defenses can stack the box with the Rams because they have no passing attack. So I tweeted at Field Yates, kind of asking what he thought. Our good friend Field. Have not gotten a response. But it's kind of making me wonder: are they just gonna give him the rock the whole time and he's gonna run up some nice stat sheets? Or are they really going to be able to stunt him? Rock the barn. Do you want to hear? Get in here?
Well, last year Teddy Bridgewater was not, like everyone said earlier, not a throwing quarterback. Only 14 touchdowns, but he didn't usually use the Hail Mary pass or a long pass. When he did throw, it was usually around 10, 15-yard gains. And this opens up, I think, an opportunity for whatever quarterback they get, starting out with Sean Hill, to use a little bit more of that depth to throw the ball. And this could open up, if you drafted Adrian Peterson, open up a little bit more opportunity for Adrian Peterson, because this way defenses don't know at the beginning of the year if Sean Hill will throw deep passes or he will hand the ball off all the time. So it's kind of a decision made by the coaches.
Okay, I have a question here that I'm going to pose to the panel, and that is the Vikings obviously have a very talented stacked defense, but with the offense right now looking like it may sputter, do you think that will take away from the defense? Do you think that the defense is going to spend so much time on the field that the production is going to decline? And I'm going to throw this to Julia.
Yes, definitely. It's gonna be pretty hard, I think, for them to bounce back and everything just from everything they're going through. Yeah.
Well, I have to say Mike Zimmer was really not making any excuses at his press conference today, even mentioning the death of his wife 7 years ago, saying that it was a very dark day, but the sun rose the next day, and it just shows you how devastating of an injury it is for this team and Mike Zimmer that he mentioned that. But they're gonna go to work, they're gonna grind, and before we drop this topic and move on to the next, I have to. Here's my suggestion for the Minnesota Vikings. There's a quarterback that so far no one here has touched on, and that is Josh McCown. Right now, the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns started last year, I think 8 games before he got injured, and this year the Browns brought in RG3. But McCown has shown himself to be more than a suitable starter. Even last year, when Cleveland wasn't playing all that well, he was doing his part. and he has really no running game to deal with unless you consider Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson Jr. someone you want to have as a running back. Their O-line was nothing good, and their defense was nothing good either. But when he was in Chicago with a running game, he had Matt Forte. In Jay Cutler's absence, he put up some pretty darn good numbers. He's a he's an average quarterback, I think. I think it's worth the Vikings look to call up Sashi Brown, the general manager of the Browns. The Vikings have plenty of picks in future drafts that they can trade away for McCown. And if they just want to sign McCown to a 1-year deal, I think that would be a really solid move by Rick Spielman, the Vikings GM, because right now you're talking about Mark Sanchez, Sam Bradford, Colin Kaepernick. They all suck. I'm sorry. They're just god awful. Geno Smith, I mean, you're just piling on the crap Sunday here. These are You might as well just stick with Sean Hill. You're just naming people that are just on the open market because nobody wants them. I I think I really think that's their best option at the moment. Julia, did you want to get in on this here?
Yeah, I want to completely agree with you. Like you said, there's nobody really good out there, and honestly, I think everyone gives. I just quickly just I think everyone gives Mark Sanchez a bad rap because he actually had a tough deal in New York where he went through about a zillion offensive coordinators and Rex just didn't play well because he was defensive minded. But I think that's a really good option for them if they went for McCown. I think he could do some great good for them. The only reason I think that the Browns want to give them up is because RG3 might end up in a wheelchair in the first 2 weeks. So that's probably the only reason why they want to give him up. But it's worth a shot to try to ask because I think that he could do some good up in Minnesota.
Fair point, but I do think if the Vikings are going to try to salvage this season, I think that McCown can be more than serviceable, and with a balanced running game and a somewhat plausible air attack, they could get to maybe a 10-win season, and if all goes really well, maybe an 11-win season. Well,
We all
especially
know
if
that.
they spend Tano.
Oh,
right.
no.
Oh.
First me, then okay.
No,
I might get flack for this, but I actually think the best option for the Vikings may be Michael Vick. Now, Michael Vick's 36 years old. He's way past his prime. He's not gonna. But I think he's the type of quarterback. He's very similar. Well, younger Michael Vick was very similar to what Teddy Bridgewater is now, and obviously it's not going to be the same type of movements that you're going to get, obviously. But I think Michael Vick might be the guy. He also could mentor. Michael Vick has said many times in this offseason he wants one more year. He wants one more opportunity, and I think this could be his opportunity to take a team into playoffs one more time before he finally calls it quits.
Well, the stars may be aligning based on what you say, but I still have to say no, he sucks. Okay,
I don't think he's.
He's
Quintana?
pretty bad.
I think
As Watson is a Jets fan.
Josh McCown
any quarterback is bad on the Jets.
Josh McCown is 2-17 in the last 2 years. So, obviously he's played on bad teams, but I think that he should win more than 2 games.
The Vikings have a more stable team, though.
They do.
He has shown success. He put some of the best numbers in a sample size when he filled in for 3 or 4 games for Jay Cutler. He had one of the best QBRs in the league. And I'm not saying that it has gone all sunshine and roses for him in Cleveland. It doesn't go there's no sunshine and roses anywhere in Cleveland unless you're LeBron. But I think he's the best. He is a solid quarterback. He has arm talent. He is somewhat of a strong arm, and with enough pressure taken off of him of Adrian Peterson, I think he can be successful.
But that was 3 years ago. He did go 13-1, but then the exact next year he went 11-14. So, that's touchdown to interceptions. So he fell off a cliff, I think.
It's called the Cleveland Cliff into Lake Erie.
No, he was with Tampa. He was with Tampa.
Yeah, but Tampa's a weird situation. I think it's worth taking a look at McCown.
Tampa was predicted to be conference contenders.
We're going to, and also if you want to talk about Tampa, they might want to take a look at Mike Glennon, a young quarterback who's shown signs of promise. But moving on from this topic, Ross Barn brought this up earlier. Colin Kaepernick obviously has dominated the last 4 or 5 days of news coverage. choosing not to stand for the national anthem in the 49ers' latest preseason game, saying that he will not stand up for the national anthem because this country oppresses minorities, and he has drawn a ton of criticism for this move. Uh, Somewhat for the motivations and somewhat for the actions, and somewhat a little of both, depending on who you are. But it's a very controversial topic. Uh, you know what? I think Jake Ostern should start us off on this one. He's our outspoken critic on the show.
Well, obviously, Eli, as you said, Colin Kaepernick has dominated the news the past few days. And what I think about this situation is that I think Colin Kaepernick is an absolutely and utterly disgraceful human being. He absolutely needs to stand up for the national anthem. That American flag symbolizes freedom. And think about all the soldiers and all the people in the armed forces who protect our freedom and serve our country. I mean, you got to show some respect for those people who put their lives at risk every day. And it's mind blowing to me that he doesn't stand for the national anthem. It's absolutely disgraceful.
You know?
Eli?
Um,
Did we lose him?
let's just keep.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
gonna I'm gonna agree with Jake on this one. It's completely disgraceful, but that he doesn't want to stand for our national anthem. Although I do have to bring up the point that because we're the United States of America, we've always had freedom of speech. And while I like that he's standing up for what he believes in, I think he chose the wrong matter in the way to do it. We all know that the reason. We all know that the reason. Sorry. We know that the reason that we are free as a country is because of our armed forces, because they're out there in other parts of the world that we've never been to, protecting us day in and day out. But we are America in the sense that we all have freedom of speech. We're all able to stand up for what we believe in. And although he is standing up for what he believes in, he chose the wrong point in time to do it. And you need to stand up for the flag. You can go believe in whatever you can believe in whatever you want. You can stand up for whatever you want. Just don't disrespect the flag.
Happy.
I agree 100%. The whole that standing up, you have to do it. It's America. You have freedom of speech, but like Julia said, there's other ways to do it. And I'm surprised this is even like a thing like we're talking about because Colin Kaepernick. I think that this has been a whole huge distraction in my mind. Colin Kaepernick. There's been reports that he's not like he's not making the team, and what I see with Colin Kaepernick is he should be focused on playing the game. Worry about that another time because right now you could be off your team, and many GMs, because of this stand, have blacklisted him. And if he gets cut, you probably won't see Colin Kaepernick in an NFL uniform ever again.
Strong words from Happy to rock the barn.
Well, before the Jets signed Fitzpatrick, I was really hoping like Colin Kaepernick could be a solid replacement. He used to look good a couple years ago, and just because the Jets always seem to be useless, and I was hoping that like we didn't have to start Geno Smith. But if if Fitzpatrick didn't sign and I had to choose a quarterback now that wasn't open, someone like Sam Bradford, I would not choose Colin Kaepernick after this decision. It was the way he went about it was wrong, and there's people who played in the NFL who left the NFL to go serve for the United States, and so what he's standing for is just the way he went about what he's doing is wrong.
I have to, Spintano, do you want to finish up here before I come?
Yeah, I like his aggressiveness on the matter, but I just hate the moment he chose to do it. Like, if that's the only way, that's the only way. But I feel like there's another way that he can make a protest.
There's definitely other ways to make protests.
Like I go.
No, go ahead.
No, go. Like, I didn't really have anything to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to agree with pretty much different things of what you all said there. I think that this is America, where you have the freedom to do what you want. he has right to, as unpatriotic as it seems, he has full right to not stand up for the national anthem. But the way he did it was really just not smart on his part. I get that he's trying to stand up for an idea which he believes in, and it's a very brave thing to do. I mean, you see some other athletes talking, but for him to make a move that will draw so much criticism on him, I wouldn't say that I totally applaud him for it, but I do really I see a sense of bravery in him. But it comes at a time, as Happy said, where he really should not be focusing on this in his career. He has really gone on a downhill trend the last couple of years. He is again fighting to make a 49ers roster. Rumors have it that he might be cut. He should really be focusing on football at this point. And there gone about, really voicing or showing his despair for what's gone on in the country, but he just did not pick the right way to do it. Spentano, finish us off.
Yeah, I'm just saying maybe the reason is he knows he might get cut, so he might just try to take one last stab at it while he can and get that public attention.
Always a valid point there. He is slated to start the 49ers' final preseason game later this week, with Blaine Gabbert being the proclaimed starter of the 49ers, just showing you how important it is to have a quarterback, because they both stink. Julia.
They've really fallen off.
I'm sorry, I just want to get one last word in here about the subject. If his whole motivation to try to make the team and get one last go at public attention, how about you try to get public attention and have a stellar preseason game, like 3 weeks in a row? How about you try to make the team in the correct way instead of going about it? It's causing all of this stress where now every team from the MLB to the NFL and all the coaches have to remind their players about the importance of the national anthem and how they have to come out and talk about why what he's doing is wrong or right, whether they agree with it or not. How about you just do your job of what you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a kid's game? How about you do that?
Outspoken words from Julia there. Definitely, I think I have to agree with that as well. It has been really, really blown up and has absolutely dominated the headlines recently. And so our final topic tonight concerns a sport that we have not touched on at all yet, and that is with our friend Rock the Barn here, always wearing his hat. The reason we call him Rock the Barn is because he wears his Islanders Rock the Barn hat, and that is the World Cup of Hockey, which, believe it or not, is happening next month. I don't forget the exact dates at the moment, but it's happening in a couple of weeks. World Cup of Hockey going to contain 8 teams: USA, Canada, Finland, Sweden, a few other teams from Europe, Russia, and it's going to be held in Toronto, televised by ESPN, the only kind of hockey ESPN decides to show. We can all agree on that. It's about time. But it'll be a very interesting time, in my opinion. Interesting to watch. There's also Team North America and Team Europe, because all of the specific, and so Team North America consists of the best players from Canada and the United States, who are 23 and under, and Team Europe is obviously the best 23 and under players from Europe. So, Rod Tabar, it's fitting that we start with you first. What are your overall thoughts on how it's going to play out?
Well, to start off, it starts September 17th, and it's going to be good. All the best players from each NHL team, some players who usually don't play in the NHL from Russia, maybe. But just to name some players from Canada, there's Patrice Bergeron, Jeff Carter, Logan Couture. It's the U.S. team is another team to look at. In North America, they're all just great teams. I mean, you have Abelkader, Dubinsky, Patrick Kane. And, I mean, of course, in my opinion, I think it's going to all pair out in the end to be Team USA versus Team Canada in the finals. Both teams with a great amount of talent. Sidney Crosby winning the Stanley Cup this year. There's other teams, of course, Finland, Sweden, Russia, who are all great players. But overall, Team USA and Team Canada have, I think, the highest amount of talent. And that's what it comes down to when you're playing in these type of tournaments in the Olympics. it's usually not the amount of chemistry you have and the amount of time you've played together. It's usually the amount of talent your team has and how much skill they can produce throughout the next month.
I mean, really, I guess what it is an over-glorified Olympics version of hockey. But I took a brief look at the odds yesterday, and the odds makers had obviously Canada the favorite at 10 to 11, and then there were actually, I forget in which order, but it was Russia and Sweden were given better odds than Team USA to win the World Cup of Hockey. The US came in at 13-2 odds, but interesting that they're only the fourth highest in odds to come away with the championship. Anyone else want to get in on this here? Jake Ostern, I know you like your puck.
I sure do. I sure do. Just when I look at that Canada roster, I just think, wow, that's such a pure dominant roster. Great all-around team. You got three great goaltenders in Corey Crawford, Braden Holtby, and Carey Price. The forwards led by three-time Selke Trophy winner Patrice Bergeron, Sidney Crosby, who was Conn Smythe Trophy winner this year. I'm looking at Tyler Sagan too, Steven Stamkos, John Tavares, Rock the Barn, you know him. Jonathan Taves on the defensive end, Brett Burns, Drew Doughty, Duncan Keith, Jake Muzzin, Alex Pietrangelo, Mark-Edward Vlasic, and Shea Weber. Just wow, and there are other players on the team too that I didn't mention, but just the pure dominance that the Canadian roster has it's just unbelievable. I have Team Canada winning the World Cup of Hockey, and it's just a phenomenal roster with such great talent at all ends of the spectrum.
It really is like a freaking all-star team. I mean, that's the only way you can put it. Obviously, there's not going to be a weak team, but I think the American organization made a couple mistakes. The biggest one probably being Phil Kessel being snubbed, but I take those words back a little bit because I heard he did have off-season surgery, so maybe there was some reason for that. But the American squad just isn't looking quite as talented as it usually does during the Olympics. Possibly part of the reason that they're only favored fourth to win. Anyone else here want to talk about the World Cup of Hockey? Spencer, our hockey connoisseur.
Yeah, I got a team that's flying under a lot of radars. The Czech Republic look really nice this year. I think that they can pull off an upset or two.
Do you know anyone who is on the
Yeah,
team?
let me see if I can pronounce any of their names. Okay, Jakub Vorsevic, GOAT.
You mean Voracek?
Jakub Voracek of the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
As we said, our hockey connoisseur.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try any more names.
Well, I mean, they do have some pretty good goaltending. I don't think they're going to win or anything, but they do have some great goaltending. Their goaltender, what looks to be their starter, is going to be Peter Mrazek, who seems to be filling in really well during the season for Howard, who usually seems to get injured all the time. And I think that could play a factor. If Spencer really thinks that Czech Republic is going to go anywhere, it's going to come down to goaltending for them.
Yeah, if you don't let any goals in, you win the game.
Seems
True.
like Jimmy Howard is
Your offense doesn't score, you don't win anything.
Your goalies score.
That's possible.
The only goalie who scores is Eric Anderson. End of story.
That's true.
And with that, I did just get a notification on my phone saying that Colin Kaepernick's next game is Thursday, and that is when the San Diego Chargers are playing the Chargers in San Diego, will host their annual preseason Salute to the Military game. The Chargers managed to do it again. Joey Bosa signed with them, but they said, why not take it up a notch? And I think that's how we're going to end tonight's show with an ending roast of Colin Kaepernick. Because as bad as some people's lives may seem, Colin Kaepernick's in a bit of a
pickle
conundrum right now. A bit of a pickle. So,
He's such an idiot.
Oh
Thank
yeah.
you for joining me today, panel. Hope you all enjoyed tonight's segments. Plenty of quotes to take out of it if you want to use it against us. But thank you. Check back a couple days for the next episode, and good night.